so bluesy.
Bending is so important. It's just huge.
It really is the kind of essence of blues soloing, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the essence of soloing in general,
Hmm.
being able to, whether you're doing something really powerful or something really subtle. You know,
I love it.
important.
Awesome, dude. I'm really excited about this session. Guys, thank you for showing up today for another blues guitar workshop series. Do appreciate your time. Please let us know where you're from as you kind of join us. That would be super cool. Just Steve and I'd love to look at where people are from. It's just fascinating. There's people from all over the planet who show up to these things, and that's always mind blowing to me. It's like, wow, cool. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we're going to do something exciting for you today that's going to be fun. Today's Blues Guitar Workshop series is on blues bending basics. And this is really cool because there's lots of different names for different styles of bends, and it's all bending, but it's kind of fun to put labels on things so you know what you're talking about and a particular type of bend that you're playing, and to kind of know what you're doing and how to execute it properly. And there's a lot of things that can really make bending a lot easier for you. So stay tuned if you'd like to learn the basics of blues bending. We're going to talk about that. Steve's going to show you today. If you'd like to learn it even faster and go farther with your blues guitar journey, you might want to check out Steve's new course. It's called Blues Guitar by Steve Stine, and it's available at guitarzoom.com. Thanks for being here, everybody. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. How are you, Dan?
I'm great. By the way, I'm Dan Denley, founder of guitarzoom.com. This is my good friend, Steve Stine, guitarist extraordinaire, instructor, emeritus professor at North Dakota State University, professor of modern guitar studies. The list goes on, man. The qualifications are just...
It's because I'm old.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what happens when you get old.
Sure. Got a little experience under your belt. That's a good thing. All right, Steve. So let's talk about some blues bends, my friend.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're just going to, I mean, they're blues bends, but they're bends obviously that you can use in any style of music. And what I'm going to do is just try and organize the thought process for you a little bit. So the first thing is understanding what is a bend, and then the second thing is kind of giving you some categories of bends. So the basic idea of a bend is that you're taking a string and you're obviously twisting the string until it sounds like another pitch. So it's bending the string. It's bending the string to a desired sound. And if you don't do that, the problem is that your guitar, it sounds like, a dying cat or something like that, or you're talking to space aliens or something like that. And so, yeah, and bending can be, I always think of it like when, maybe a violin player first starts learning how to play violin and their parents are like, that's the thing about bending, is that bending is something that you need to spend time getting used to, being aware of the pitch that you're trying to get to. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start off by talking about whole step or 2-fret bends. Okay, very common bend that we use all the time. We're going to call these basic bends. Okay, basic bends. And what a basic bend is just taking a note and bending it up 2 frets. So let's say, again, we're in A minor pentatonic. And I'm going to show you 3 basic bends, and these basic bends are the quintessential bends that every guitar player on the planet uses. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the 3rd string here, and I'm in A minor pentatonic. Now, again, it could be diatonic. It doesn't matter. The point is I'm going to the 7th fret of the 3rd string right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend that 7th fret up a whole step so it sounds like the 9th fret. And I need to hear that. I need to hear that distance, okay? It's not just a distance thing. Like if you use thicker strings on the guitar, you've got to bend harder. If you use thinner strings, you have to bend a little less, right? But you have to be careful that you don't overbend if you've got thinner strings. This has got a tremolo, a whammy bar, right? A floating tremolo system. So when I bend, it's a little bit easier to bend because the tremolo kind of picks up. Where if you have a standard bridge, right, a fixed bridge they call it, you got to bend a little bit harder to get the pitch up to what you want. So all guitars are different. And the reason I say that is sometimes people would go, well, you know, do you bend up to the dot? Or, you know, I would have a guitar with like, you know, whatever, the vines on it or something like my gem, and people would, I used to have students all the time would ask, well, do you bend up to a certain spot on the neck, you know, on one of the designs? And it doesn't work that way. You've got to use your ear. It all comes down to your ear. So that's what you're looking for, is bending up to that note. So what you're going to do is you're going to, in this case, I'm putting my third finger down, right? So I'm going to put my other two fingers on this same string, and I'm going to use all three of those fingers to push the string up in the air. Now I'm pushing the string up in the air by turning my wrist. I'm not doing it by doing this. Because the problem is that you don't have a lot of control with just your fingers. Your fingers don't have a lot of strength. You know, you think like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's a very strong individual. But it's not like his fingers themselves are really that strong. It probably wouldn't take that much to snap a finger, okay? It would take more to snap his fingers than it would to snap my fingers, though. Just saying. So I'm not going to go try and snap his fingers. But the point is that the fingers aren't very strong, where if you're using your wrist and your forearm, everything is coming from this motion, and you've got more control of that string. And control is important because it's not just bending it to the proper pitch, it's also how long it takes you to get there. These are the nuances of the bend. So if I take this bend, I can go, and I'm good. I can go, you see, I can decide how long it takes me to get to that bend, that desired pitch. Now I'm going to show you some other things that you can do with that, but let's finish up these basic bends. So the next basic bend is going to be on the second string on the 8th fret, where my pinky normally would go. But I'm not going to bend with my pinky. I'm going to bend with that same series of fingers. Okay? So again, I want to play that note. I want to get that note embedded in my brain. So when I bend, I'm bending up to that pitch. Okay? Now, why am I using these three fingers instead of this? Well, there's lots of different reasons. Number one, it's uncomfortable for me personally to do my bends naturally with the pinky. That doesn't mean I don't bend with the pinky. I do when I wind up in a situation where I have to. But if I elect to do my bend, I'm going to elect to do it with these three fingers, just because it's far more comfortable for my hand, for the position of my hand, the strength of my arm, all those sorts of things. So I might do this bend and then drop into whatever it is I'm going to do, and I just fall right back into the normal way of playing the scale. This doesn't really change anything. It's just, you see? Now you're going to see a lot of players do that. The second reason I do that is because eventually I might do this bend and want my pinky to be doing something else, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. If I do this, I don't have any other fingers available to do anything. Okay? So the third basic bend is on the first string. And again, pentatonically, it's the 8th fret right here, my pinky. Now, of course, these could be played in G or F. You can move all of this stuff anywhere you want. So think third finger, pinky, pinky, right? In terms of your pentatonic scale, that's where these bends are. Now, the first string is unique because, again, I'm going to go to that same thing and I'm going to do this with the third finger, the other two fingers behind it. But the unique thing about this is that the first string is the thinnest string out of all 6 strings, but it also has the most tension. So the first string for most guitar players is the hardest string to bend because the string is so tight, it's so strained, even though it's thin, that it takes more power. You see, and part of the goal here is that you want to be able to hit those pitches without a lot of like, again, you're not talking to aliens, right? You don't want all that happening. So you want to practice to be able to hit those, and it just takes time and it takes practice, but you need to be aware of it. You need to listen. So it's not just bending. Please don't do that, because many guitar players out there will tell you that learning how to do these subtle elements like bending are some of the most important things you can do. Because even if you do something really cool, you know, with a cool lick or something like that, or a phrase or a sequence, after you come off of that, you might need to go into a bend or a vibrato or something like that. One of these, what I always call vocal elements, that really kind of tie everything together, okay? And you don't want to kill that really great lick that you just played with a really bad bend. So you want to be aware of this stuff. So in this, once you start getting in all this sort of thing too, it better defines maybe what kind of strings you're using, what thickness of strings that you're using. Because when you're just, you know, when you spend all your time playing chords, your strings could be really, really thick, and it probably doesn't really make any difference because, you know, you're playing bar chords or power chords or what, open chords, and it's fine. But you start bending, and you're going to start going, wow, that takes some effort to really hit those and get those in the right pitch and really be able to manipulate them. So you just have to be aware of that, because now we're getting into this thing where comfort becomes a really important thing to be able to execute these ideas. Now, again, I'll stop talking here, but that's what the basic bend is. So the basic bend is I'm just taking these 3 strings and I'm bending them up a whole step. And these are by far the most common bends that you hear people play. Now, there's a million ways that you can bend. If you think of the definition, you're bending from a note to another note. Well, there's a billion ways you could do that. But let's start with these, okay? So these are the basic bends. Now, any basic bend can simply be bent up, and you're done. It could be bent up and then brought back down. It could be bent up and then... That's called a reverse bend, or often called a ghost bend, is when you pre-bend it and then you bring it down. So I'm bending it before the listener can hear me, and I'm bringing it back, okay? I do what I refer to as dip bends, which is where I'll bend it up, and then I'll dip the string just slightly and then re-bend it again. I just love the sound of those. And there's lots of ways you can do them. Again, there's not a, when I dip it, it's not like I'm going to a certain pitch. I'm just going somewhere in the middle that is out of tune and creating tension. And then when I bend it back up, it releases that tension again. See? So there's lots of different ways that you can manipulate a basic bend. You can simply bend it, or bend it up and down, or reverse bend, or all the little goodies in the middle that you can do with that. And you can do that on any one of those 3 strings. You know, again, the question might be, well, and this is the all or nothing thing that human nature does is, well, can't I do those basic bends other places? Or can't I do whole step bends? Yeah, sure, you can do all kinds of things. But I'm not concerned with you turning this again into a trigonometry problem, going, well, how many different ways and the physics of... Just learn how to play a few of these really, really well and learn how to use them in your playing. And then you can start exploring different places to do these things. Like what we find is a lot of times we do a lot of bending on these first 3 strings because if you notice, I'm bending toward the ceiling. If I go to the 5th string, I can't bend toward the ceiling. Now I can bend toward the floor and that's fine. Right? And I can do different bends in different places. This brings the next question, which is, do they always have to be whole step bends? No, there's a million other bends out there. But let's just start with what we call the basic bend, which are these 3 primary essential bends that we use all the time. So if I was playing, I mean, there it is. There it is. I mean, we use them all the time, you know. So that's what I want you to start with, are those basic bends. Learn to play it so it's in tune, and then start learning how to manipulate it in various ways, whether you bend it up, bring it back down, whether you do a reverse bend, right, or a ghost bend, or whether you do those dips, different kinds of things like that. So I've got other ones, but I just want to see if we've got anything to discuss before I move on.
Man, that's awesome. Basic bends, ghost bends, dip bends, reverse bends. The whole concept
they're all part of the same family. Like if you think of ghost and dip and all these things, they're not different bends. They're just manipulating the bend. Because as we talk about other bends, any bend can do these things. Like you could do a half-step bend, and it still could do these things. You know, it's learning how to manipulate the bend is the whole thing. And again, anything can be bent, and well, we'll continue that conversation, but let's just keep going here.
Bending towards the ceiling and bending towards the floor. So on the sixth, fifth, and fourth strings, you usually bend towards the floor.
Well, I do, but everybody's different. I mean, the fourth string you could kind of get away with something, but again, the fourth string doesn't lend itself really well to a whole step bend unless you move down, because this needs a minor third to bend up, which is why we're not talking about that right now. To get to that note, I got to go up a step and a half to get there. So it's not a natural basic thing. I got to press even further. So understand that, again, I don't want to open up too much of a can of worms here, but everything can't be a basic bend. Sometimes you have to bend even bigger than a whole step, which requires even more power. And they sound wonderful, but we're not there yet. So
Got it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is fascinating, Steve. Guys, we're talking about blues bending. I mean, really, you can use this in any style of music. We're talking about basic bending. But of course, this is the Blues Guitar Workshop series we're doing for you here. If you are joining us late, thank you and for joining us, and welcome. If you are like, oh no, I missed out on the first part, don't worry. We're going to save this as a video on the GuitarZoom YouTube channel, and you can go there and click on playlist. It'll be available for you under the Blues Guitar Workshop series. Lots of videos already there for you in that playlist. So if you want to learn all of the ins and outs of blues bending today, at least the three basic ones, stick with us. If you'd like to learn all this stuff faster, you might want to check out Steve's new course. It's called Blues Guitar by Steve Stine, and it's available at guitarzoom.com. And everything we're talking today and in this entire series is just scratching the surface on what you're going to learn in that course. And that's very A to Z and step by step. So if you're interested in blues guitar, I want to check out Steve's course, Blues Guitar. All right, Steve, man, that was a lot already for just the basic one. So I'm excited to see what else.
Yeah, and the rest of them really aren't that complex. It's just adding on to that idea. So let's say we take the basic bend. We can do what I refer to as an anchor. So an anchor bend. An anchor bend is taking a basic bend, but connecting to another string. So I might do the third string here, 7th fret. I might bend that up and then connect to the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Or I might connect to the 5th fret of the 1st string. And you hear that a lot, where somebody might go. So I'm bending up that basic bend, then I'm connecting. I'm not releasing it. I'm bending it up. The string stops, and I play the next note. But it all happens kind of simultaneously. So it's just handing off the baton to the next string. And if I do that one, I'm jumping over a string, so it sounds kind of cool. So I might be coming from somewhere. So again, it's attaching, it's anchoring onto another string. I also have anchors on this side, because obviously I've got my pinky available here. Okay, so now I'm bending up, and I'm getting this 8th fret of the 2nd string. And now you're going to get those kind of southern rock sounds by anchoring on the back side of the pentatonic scale. Where if you anchor on the front side, these 5s, you get more of that Chuck Berry kind of sound. Or that's kind of the Mama I'm Coming Home kind of sound, right? Are all sitting over on this side. So I can anchor to one string, I can anchor to both strings, right? Heck, I could anchor to both of them at the same time. Right? So there's lots of different ways. Now, on the 2nd string, I could anchor to the 1st string. And this is what I was talking about before. If I use my third finger, I can anchor to the pinky underneath. Had I used my pinky here, you know, I could kind of try and use the bottom of my pinky or something like that, but in order to actually do that, the third finger's got to be manipulating the bend so the pinky is available. You see, so I've got to have that pinky available. So that's, again, that's just anchoring. Now the first string can't anchor onto anybody, right? If I bend up, you know, I'm not doing that. That's a whole different kind of thing. So the anchor really is happening on one of the subsequent strings underneath, right? So that's what we can call an anchor bend, is we're just simply connecting to another string from that basic bend. Make sense?
Makes a ton of sense. Guys, hey, if you're enjoying this, just let us know by making a couple comments or popping it in the chat box or something, and let us know how we're doing here. Hopefully you're finding this helpful. So we've talked about basic bends, we've talked about ghost bends, dip bends, reverse. They're kind of all of those are kind of in that same family of basic bending. Then we talk about the anchor bend, which adds in that additional note that you're trying to latch on to. Where do we go from there?
The next one would be like a unison bend. So a unison bend is the very first one I showed you, the basic bend. That connects to this string right here, the second string, 5th fret. If I play those at the same time, then I get that kind of sound. And that's what we call a unison bend, because I'm bending this up, and this and that become the same pitch. This note is the same note, right? Because I'm bending up from 7 to 9, right? So I'm just bending it to itself. But it's all the little stuff in between, especially when I add a little vibrato. You know, you always think like... right? You know, all those kind of sounds. They're great bends. They're very aggressive sounding, especially when you add that little vibrato. Okay, so that's how they would work on the basic bend on the third string.
Nice.
You go to the basic bend on the second string, it works the same way, but your first finger would have to move back to the 5th fret. So it's a little bit bigger stretch. You see? But they sound great. So it's just, again, another thing to try and get comfortable with in terms of bending.
Awesome. So the three ones we covered today are the basic bend, the anchor bend, and then these unison bends.
That's right.
Cool. And if I'm understanding you, the basic bend also, we can kind of throw in ghost bending, what you call dip bends, which I think is a great name, where you kind of bend up and then dip back down quickly and back up. And then the reverse bend. And all of those
can happen. You know, you could do those connecting to other things, right?
Right.
So it's just the concept. I don't really consider those bends per se. They're just manipulations of whatever it is that you're doing. So you can do any of those over something else. You know? You know, there's lots of different ways of, and again, it's that dissonance. That's what's happening is, as I keep going, you're noticing I'm getting more and more dissonance because I'm getting more strings involved. When you play one string, there's not a lot of dissonance. When you play two strings, you start getting more of that dissonance. So if I take those two strings, see that, and then all of a sudden it comes together. So that's kind of the fun of bending, is that when you play single notes, you know, no matter what you do, as long as you're playing the right notes, everything is pretty constant. But when you play two notes together, you get these different kinds of sounds. And of course, I mean, I don't think surprising anybody, but the tuning of the guitar is fairly imperfect, which is why we've come to true temperament tuning and, you know, different kinds of things like that. Different guitars now have different ways that the frets are set up and things to try and make that tuning more accurate. Because a standard tuned 6-string guitar really isn't very accurate in terms of its tuning all the way through all 6 strings. So the cool thing is with these bends and stuff like that, sometimes that out of tune sound can be used to our benefit to create tension. Right? If I play D here, I'm in tune. If I play D here, I'm not in tune anymore, right? I mean, it's just an imperfection of the guitar itself and the way it's tuned, but yeah. So sometimes those dissonant sounds, we can use those intentionally, even if we're out of tune a little bit, especially if we add a little vibrato. You see, and as soon as I go back to single notes, it all kind of balances out. So
Very cool, dude.
yeah.
What else you want to learn us?
Well, I think that's enough for now. I mean, that's a great place to start. There's lots of other bends. There's 3-fret bends and blues bends and all kinds of different things. But I think, again, just the most important thing is avoiding the all or nothing thing that I keep trying to remind people of trying to learn 500 different ways of bending. And then when push comes to shove and you actually start playing, you can't really do any of them in tune. Learn to manipulate. The basic bend is one of the nicest ones to learn how to do because it does connect to other things, right? And you can play it on other strings. And then when you get comfortable with that, then try some other bends from there. So,
Love it. Guys, as always, thank you for being here. Don't worry if you showed up late or you were unable to join us in the beginning. We will save this live session as a video on the playlist called Blues Guitar Workshop. It'll be there available for you on the GuitarZoom YouTube channel. Just go there and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button if you want to get notified of the next live session that we do. We not only have these blues guitar series to continue, we also are going to be doing one on the rock licks coming up, and that's going to be fun. I'm super, super excited about that. And hey, thanks for being here. We do appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this and you'd like to learn a good blues guitar, A to Z, everything to do with rhythms and bending and soloing and shuffle rhythms and chords and dominant sevenths and all things blues, so you can really go deep, Steve's created a course for you. It's called Blues Guitar by Steve Stine, and it's available at guitarzoom.com. It's an online course. It's instant access, so there's nothing to wait for you. Just as soon as you get logged in there, then you have access to the whole course. Start from the beginning, jump over the stuff you already know, go right to something you want to be, you want to learn. It's not like a theory course. You need to start from the very beginning and go all the way through. But if that's what you want to do, it's there for you in a very step-by-step manner. Everything is tabbed out for you. You have a professional tab transcriber, and he has a transcription there for you. And we have jam tracks and all kinds of resources there inside of the website. So that's all at guitarzoom.com. The course is called Blues Guitar. Steve, I think this has been another killer blues guitar workshop, my friend. Thank you for being with us and sharing your time and your talents.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad to do it for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you being here with us. It's awesome and a privilege to be here. See you in the next session.
Take care, everybody. Practice hard.